Okay, hello everyone and welcome to the June subscription video of 2025. You might guess it right, we are sending out some Kenyan coffees and today I have Maren with me. She's gonna help us taste the coffees. Maren, who are you?
I'm the subscription and also sustainability and course coordinator here. Yeah. So I work actually very closely with the subscriptions, making sure it's all sent out. So a few of you might have emailed with me before.
Yeah.
And sustainability is a big part of my work here.
So what is that?
Actually, I mean, let's call it responsibility.
Yeah.
Our responsibility act kind of here. So I'm working very closely with trying to make a system and kind of structure our sustainability work here. Yeah.
So helping also out with our biological project,
Yes.
which is testing out organic practices or biological practices on 5-6 different farms in Latin America. So Maren is helping coordinating that. But you've been working here for a long time.
Yes.
In different roles. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I started as a roaster.
Yeah.
So my first position here was just being downstairs and roasting the coffee. And that was super valuable because I learned so much about like roasting and roasting styles and how we actually work with getting all the flavors out of the coffee by doing the light roast. I had no idea what roasting was before I started.
Yeah.
So that was a ride. And then when I moved away to do my master's degree, I was still lucky enough to come back here and work downstairs packing in the roastery. And I've also dabbled with being a barista, but that turned out it wasn't my strong side, but I still help out sometimes in the bar. Yeah.
And you also do some cheer dance?
I do cheer dance.
World champ or European champ?
Not yet.
Not yet. Soon maybe.
I'm a national champ, but I have competed in like the world championships, so next week is going to be pretty exciting.
Great.
Europeans. Yeah.
So Maren took over after Malin to coordinate the subscription. Malin is still here, she's just doing other stuff. And so if you're wondering about the subscription, you can subscribe from 1 to 6 bags. We ship around the world. Of course, there are a few exceptions.
Some exceptions, yeah.
We ship with DHL abroad, and then we ship with Posten inside Norway.
Yeah.
Normally we roast on the first week of the month, so we send out on the first Wednesday of the month.
Yeah.
And shipping takes like 1 to 3-4 days normally in all over the world. Yeah. Sometimes people in Tokyo send us a message like the day after we have sent it, like we already have the coffee, which is crazy.
Yeah.
You can pause and change and stop the subscription at any time.
Yeah.
And I choose the coffees every month.
You do?
This month was pretty easy because we almost don't have any coffee left in the warehouse. And the Kenyan container arrived last week. Yeah. So we quickly got the coffees into the roastery, did some test roasts and decided on which lots to send out. And I mean, there were so many good Kenyan coffees this year. Kenya has kind of been a little bit up and down in the last maybe 6 years, I would say. I remember I was there, I think it was the 2019 December, right before COVID. They had like floods, like heavy floods. And it was raining during harvest. And that means it's impossible to dry the coffee properly. Yeah. So, of course, you're going to have quality issues. If you ask the farmers, no quality issues, but there is for sure. And it's been a little bit up and down since then. Some leaf rust outbreaks, more rain, very unstable climate now. Fortunately, this year, I think the quality is better than it has been in probably 6 years. Yeah. And I'm not the only one saying that. We also have Nordic Approach in upstairs, who were thrilled. I was in Kenya with Morten in February to taste coffees, and he was like, everything on the table tasted fantastic, and So I think the difference this year is that there's a lot more kind of defined fruit in the coffee, more sweetness, just more intensity in general, and a lot cleaner coffees overall. I mean, that means the good coffees are always clean, but less so the kind of really bad coffees. Yeah. Okay, so we have selected 3 coffees today. If you subscribe to 3 bags, you will get 1 of each. But if you subscribe to 1 bag, you will only get the first coffee. So that's how it works.
That's how it works.
If you subscribe to 6, you get 2 bags of each. And knowing our followers and subscribers, Kenya is probably
Quite
the
popular.
favorite month. We have gotten
Yeah.
emails so many
Yeah.
for months now because we ran out of Kenya a few months ago.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, when is the new Kenya coming? And it should have come here at least 3 weeks ago. But then there's something called shipping delays.
Always something.
Yeah. So I'm tracking the containers every week.
Yeah.
And then it's so disappointing when you see that when a container arrives into, for example, the Ethiopian container arrived Jeddah and wasn't picked up by the boat that it was supposed to be picked up on. So it was just stranded there for a month. So we still haven't received the Ethiopian container. And because of some troubles in the Suez Canal or in the Red Sea, the boats are now going around Africa, which adds a couple more weeks of shipping. Yeah. So hopefully...
It's worth the wait.
Why
I'm
can't
sure.
people just be friends, you know, and everything will resolve itself. Yeah. All right. You want to taste?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do.
We're doing it blind, so you don't know what it is.
Okay.
But we're also going to do like the COVID-style cupping.
Yeah.
If you're wondering how we set up a cupping, we have a tutorial on YouTube. It's pretty easy. You can either taste with a spoon. I do that when I'm alone. Yeah. Or if you're with friends and don't want to get sick, you take a little coffee from the top. And the good thing about that, it cools down a little bit faster and then you drink.
This is also how we do it when we do like cuppings here.
Yeah.
So
feel free to taste the first one. You don't have to say that.
there's an acidity there that's more yellow, like more not lemony,
Stone fruit,
it's
maybe?
more stone fruit than I'm used to from.
Yeah.
Like I'm used to like the very like berry acidity.
I think I associate Kenyans with like blackberry, blackcurrant, rosehip, hibiscus. But often when I cup Kenyan coffees in Kenya, I hear other people say, "Oh, ripe mango, ripe stone fruit." So I think it's just an association. And some people will say, "Oh, tomato, tomato, tomato,
Yeah,
tomato."
yeah.
Especially the lighter roasted ones.
Yeah.
And also, if the quality is not great, sometimes you get a little bit overwhelming, like herbal character from probably Ruiru hybrids, and that mixes with this kind of fruit, and it becomes like very strong tomato flavor. I don't mind tomato flavor, but
no, me neither.
This doesn't have tomato flavor.
No, it does not.
No. Very ripe, maybe.
Yeah.
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 Not so tart, like the Kenyans we had last year. They were pretty tart.
Okay. Yeah.
For me, this is more like you say, stone fruit acidity.
Yeah.
Really juicy, ripe.
Yeah.
I get some blackcurrants, blackberries. What do you get?
No, like I said, I was surprised that the acidity was more like not that tart. Maybe that's what I'm going for. It's like a very smooth acidity. Blackcurrants, for sure. More like the darker berries and like almost a little winey, but not like overpowering. Yeah.
When Ben, our wholesale manager here, cups these, he says they're bløt in Norwegian. Which you can't really translate it to English.
Mushy.
Mushy or soft.
Yeah, soft.
He says soft, but it's actually moist.
Yeah.
Bløt, doesn't sound so good.
Doesn't.
But it's really like soft in the mouth, very sweet, juicy. Okay, before I reveal them, we're gonna go to the next one.
Yeah.
Just to have a little comparison. I love Kenyan coffees.
This is more tart, I think. Yeah.
Completely different style.
Yeah, it's very different.
Yeah. So the first one is actually from Karogoto.
Yeah.
That's a coffee
Classic.
from Nieri that we have been buying from for many years.
Yeah.
Karogoto is a wet mill. It's called a factory in Kenya, but a factory in Kenya is a wet mill.
Yeah.
Of course, there are other types of factories too, but and that wet mill belongs to the Tikangu cooperative. I think they have 4 wet mills now.
Yeah.
So a lot of the farmers surrounding Karogoto in a small area, they will go and deliver cherries there. They sell the cherries to the cooperative. They get paid like a first payment. The cooperative will process and wash and dry the coffees. put it into the market. Once the coffee is sold, they know the price. They do a second payment to the farmers.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it works in Kenya. And what am I saying?
That's how it works in Kenya.
That's how it works in Kenya, yeah. And this year, I know that there was a nearby factory that shut down.
Wow.
So a lot of new farmers were delivering cherries to Karogoto. So they had like a record high production for many years.
Yeah.
And that can kind of give you some challenges because maybe they don't have capacity to dry, maybe they don't have capacity to process and so on. I tasted a lot of different outturns, like lots from Karogoto, and they did have slightly different flavor. This one for me was probably the more ripe one.
Yeah.
And maybe because of a little bit longer fermentation. You see the second one is a little bit more tart in acidity and so, and the first one is kind of almost not, I wouldn't say overripe, but like really ripe.
Yeah.
And that can be, I just assume maybe that it can be from a little bit longer fermentation.
Yeah.
Or you will have differences in batch size. So for instance, when I pick coffee on my farm and I only pick like a handful of cherries, it's really difficult to ferment because you don't really build the momentum of heat and everything. Whereas if you have a huge batch, the heat will build up in the pile and the fermentation will be much faster. So there can be some variances in fermentation, and that's why you can see different qualities from the same factory.
Yeah.
But you like the first one?
I like them both.
Okay, second one is from a completely different area in Kenya. It's from the west, Mount Elgon, so on the border of Uganda.
Yeah, almost Uganda, yeah.
And it's from Kapsokisio. We've been buying that coffee for many years as well. In both factories, we actually have sponsored some drying tables because normally what the issue is with quality is that they don't have drying capacity.
Yeah.
So they know how to process the coffee really well there. So it's normally a drying capacity. So we kind of donated some metal drying beds from our anniversary collections. And you know, the coffee, I've been trying to buy the coffees every year, but Kenya is like a little challenging sometimes in terms of politics. So sometimes you just can't access the coffees, or it's too slow to drive it from Mount Elgon to Nairobi, and then the coffee doesn't taste good.
Something happens, yeah.
But this year the coffee, I found one lot that tasted really good. But these farmers mainly grow a different cultivar called K7.
K7, okay. Yeah.
I think it's like a Bourbon something.
Yeah.
In Nyeri, most farmers, at least at this altitude, they grow probably now the majority is Ruiru 11, Batian, some SL28, some SL34. Yeah. So it's a mix, and sometimes you can get more herbality from that, but in this year I think it's really like fruity.
And Ruiru, is that like more sturdy kind of to?
Yeah, so Ruiru and Batian are hybrids.
Yeah.
So just like in Colombia, you have Variedad Colombia, Castillo.
Yeah.
Ruiru 11 and Batian are Kenyan-made hybrids.
Yeah.
And the Batian can taste really good. The Ruiru too, but they're very demanding trees. Yeah. So if you don't kind of fertilize them enough, then the quality suffers a little bit. So I've done many times like separation of SL and Ruiru, been able to taste that, and SL always outperforms the Ruiru. Batian can be a little tricky, sometimes can be pretty good. Yeah. The K7 I haven't been able to like isolate, but it does have a different profile, a little bit more like apples and like green apples, tart rhubarb, hibiscus,
you get
red
those
berries.
lighter flavors than the more like heavy berries and.
For sure. I love them both. I think if I want to sell 2 Kenyans at a time, I'd rather that they taste different than the same. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
A little bit more elegant and slim, maybe.
It reminds me more of like some of the Ethiopian coffees that we've had.
Yeah.
So.
Not necessarily more elegant, but you know, like slimmer.
Yeah.
This is like more.
It's more overpowering or like takes up some space.
Wow, especially when you go back now, you really get the blackcurrant flavors. All right, so the third cup, let's taste that. The There's not going to be anything left for the cameraman.
It's good.
Yeah. How is it compared to the other two?
Less acidic for sure, I think.
Yeah. Than number 2 or number 1 or both?
Mostly compared to number 1, I think the acidity is it's lower, but it's it almost has like almost like cacao nib bitterness to it. Like or maybe it's the tomato herbalness I'm getting.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more herbal.
Yeah.
I would say. Cacao nib might be my poor sample roasting.
No.
It's actually from Karogoto too. So same factory,
Yeah.
2 different lots.
Yeah.
For me, this is maybe less of that super ripe stone fruit thing, and more towards that kind of rosehip.
Yeah.
Did I say rosehip here?
No. You
No, I said blackcurrant, overripe fruit here, and a little bit more like rosehip, a little bit more tartness, and you have a slight herbality that might come from more rhubarb in the mix.
Yeah.
We don't know. Like the farmers will deliver on certain days.
Yeah.
So if we were farmers and deliver to Karogoto, maybe you deliver on Monday, I deliver on Tuesday.
Yeah.
They have to do that so that not everyone delivers at the same time.
Yeah.
So you never know what kind of mix you're gonna get in a batch. But quite different than the first one.
Yeah, very different.
And for me, it feels like it's a little bit less fermented than this one. But I might be wrong. Who knows? It's difficult to track.
Yeah. It almost has like a very slight, you know, when before raspberries get sour, when they're just like super sweet and there's no like acidity to it.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm getting from this one.
Yeah, because it does have more like light berry flavors.
Yeah, yeah.
This is more purple berry flavors.
Yeah.
I agree. So every year we buy coffees from these factories, and sometimes we buy several different lots. Sometimes we just buy one lot. Sometimes we buy only the AA, which is the big beans. Sometimes we buy the AA and the pea berry from the same lot, depending on volumes and everything. So these are both AA lots, which means the biggest screen size of the beans. They're just different outturns, which means maybe one was processed one week and the other one was processed the other week, or separate days. Yeah. And then they're stored separately at the factory. When they deliver, they get a number. They deliver it to the dry mill, and they get a number, specific number. So this is lot 38 from week 16, and this is lot 24 from week 16. Week 16 is the amount of weeks after the harvest starts. So it's like a defined date in Kenya when the harvest starts, and then you count the weeks afterwards. And normally we tend to buy from week like 15 and onwards, but it really depends because this year the harvest was earlier. Yeah. But if you buy from like week 2, it's more or less going to be fly crop, which is like a small harvest before the main harvest. And the quality normally is not great because the coffee has been resting for too long. So these are all the kind of the recent harvest, although they're harvested in like November, December. It's the freshest coffee you can get from Kenya at the moment. So when I went there, I went to a company called Alliance that are kind of marketing these coffees. And I cupped through many different lots, many different screen sizes, like AA, AB, P berry, also C grade, which is the smaller ones, from the same lots. So this lot would have like 4 different grades that you cup through. And what's good about that is like if you think there's a fermentation issue in this one, you can always taste it in the smaller screens. Because they tend to taste even more fermented if there's an issue. But I didn't find any issues. It's just like really ripe. And I don't think it tastes really fermenty either, but it has that like super ripe flavor. And I did the same with all these coffees, and it's really interesting to see how, at least for me, the large screen size always has like really nice acidity, a lot of flavor. The ABs tend to be less acidic, sometimes a little bit rougher. Sometimes they're almost equally good. And the pea berries for me normally can taste fantastic, very intense. pea berries are the like round beans.
Yeah.
But the volumes are really small. So this year there were not huge lots of pea berries, because some years there's more, some years there's less. So we only bought one lot, I think, this year, or 2 lots that were pea berries.
Yeah. And there's probably more variation in the smaller size, maybe?
Not the pea berries, but no, not really. No, because it's very specific. So the AB will be screen size 15, 16, and the AA is screen 17 to 19. And then you have above that we don't really buy, because a lot of times the largest beans, they're called elephant beans, they kind of break when they get roasted. Cool. What's your favorite here, you think?
I think Kapsokisio is still a little new to me, and that's why I find it very interesting and nice. Because, like you said before, like we don't have the same coffees all the time.
Yeah.
And when I first started working here, I remember we had Karogoto like every year.
Yeah.
But the Kapsokisio, we had a little break from it, I think.
We couldn't get it.
I think to me, just because it's kind of like new and exciting,
Yeah.
I really like it.
I think for me, both the Karogotos are fantastic this year. They're just very different. But maybe I like the first one the best, I think. Yeah, it's like so Kenyan.
Yeah.
And the third one is also really good. I think, I would enjoy all of them actually. They're just slight variations of the same, I would say.
It's a good thing I answered your question before I started tasting them, because now I want to say, no, this is my favorite.
Yeah.
No, wait, this is my favorite.
Cool. So that means everyone who subscribes to 1 bag will get the really juicy ripe Karogoto. If you subscribe to 2 bags, you will get also the Kapsokisio K7 cultivar from Mount Elgon, high altitude, very nice coffee, I think.
Yeah.
And if you subscribe to 3 or more bags, you will also get the second lot from Karogoto. So don't get confused if you get 2 bags of Karogoto.
Yeah, that's the point.
They are different. We will have different labels on them. And the point is to show you that even though you can buy coffee from a factory, there is quality differences. And of course, they also produce bad coffee.
Yeah.
Every factory produces bad coffee because they do a lot of grading when they process. So these are from like the densest beans. The coffee is normally hand sorted when the farmers deliver the cherries. It gets hand sorted so that the kind of not so good cherries go to one hopper and the good cherries go to the main hopper. And then the good cherries get processed. It goes through a traditional disc pulping machine. And that uses quite a lot of water, unfortunately. But with the water, you also grade the cherries on density before they are depulped. So it
floats or sinks to the bottom, right? Yeah.
So the floaters go to one tank, and those are considered lower quality. Yeah. And the dense cherries go to a different fermentation tank after it's depulped, of course. And those are high quality. So when they decide, they normally ferment like overnight or for 36 hours. Without water, so it's dry fermentation. And then when they decide to wash the coffee, they take it into these washing channels. They kind of push the coffee against the water stream, and then they set up barriers so that the light coffee beans will float over the barriers and downstream. So you end up with like 3 different grades just in the washing channel from the densest beans. Yeah. So these are from the densest of the densest. And then you have parchment 2, which is a slightly lower grade, and then parchment 3, which are, I would say off grades almost.
So there's a lot of labor and
there's a lot of labor. And then the coffee is taken to skin drying tables, where the parchment is still wet. People stand and sort out defects. And then the coffee is transported to drying tables, where it's dried. People stand and sort out defects. Then it's taken to the dry mill, where they screen the size, so these are only the largest beans from the densest. And then it's again sorted with the color sorters to take out all the defects. And also density tables, so the lighter beans are removed. So that's, I think, one of the reasons why Kenyan coffees are so good. You have like grading, sorting. Yeah. And you end up with like very high quality beans. And that's also why the prices in general in Kenya are higher than in other countries. So the average price is higher in Kenya. Yeah. And the coffees are fantastic.
Yeah, they really are.
My only wish was that they would change their agricultural style a little bit, because as you know, you work with sustainability. It's very depending on like salt-based mineral fertilizers, pesticides, fungicides, especially the SL varieties. They have a lot of leaf rust and coffee berry disease. So hopefully in time we can have some impact there on some farms. And try to test some biological farming there as well. That's my dream, at least.
Yeah, I think we have to look at the precipitation a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's where most of the damage is being done. Like you said, there was like a flood and everything. Like the really heavy rainfalls is probably going to be a big issue.
For sure.
Yeah.
But there are ways you can
combat
that. But let's test it in Latin America first, and then we can see if it works in Kenya.
Yeah.
Cool. If you want to learn more about Marn's work, we recorded a podcast a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
So go to our podcast and check out, I think, how we work with regenerative or something. I don't remember the title.
Yeah.
Go through.
Plan for regenerative coffee
like that.
farming.
Yeah. And then we have like a 1.5 hour conversation about all that work that we do.
Yeah.
And if you want to learn more about Kenyan coffees in particular, I recorded a podcast with Stephen Vick earlier this year. He's a friend of mine who works in Kenya. He actually used to work for a roastery there, roasting Kenyan coffee and sending it to Scandinavia. And also, I mean, he's been buying coffee in Kenya for many years. I've also recorded last year 2 episodes with people who work for Dormans, the exporter we work with there. And then in previous years, I've also talked with Morten Vennersgaard from Nordic Approach about Kenyan coffee and different things. So if you really want to dig into Kenya while you enjoy Kenyan coffee, there's a lot of material in our podcast for sure. Whew, that's a lot of talking. Anything else you want to say?
Did you want me to talk more? No. No. I hope everyone enjoys the coffee.
Yeah.
I think summertime is also a really good time to experiment with cold coffees.
Yeah, that's true.
And Kenyan coffees are probably the best to if you're starting off with doing cold coffees.
Yeah.
This is
try Kenyan. It's so fruity and nice.
Yeah.
So we have a tutorial on how we make cold coffee, but feel free to use any recipe. But Kenyan coffees for sure. And if you have any complaints, she's the one to email. Cool. Thank you, Maren, for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching the video. As I said earlier, if you want to subscribe, you can go to our website, subscribe from 1 to 6 bags. We ship in most countries around the world. And you can stop, pause, change your subscription at any time. And you get some nice coffees every first week of the month. That's kind of how it works. Thanks for watching, and until then, see you next time.